and welcome back to Madison Mindset, the podcast. I'm in my usual outdoor office and it is so windy. It is so windy. So I'm hoping that my trusty cheap microphone, who has had my back for 6 years, including making music, has got me covered for the wind and keep the wind out. You'll be able to tell me. But yeah, this is the cool part about working outside in nature. You know, people think, to work outside in nature, you've got to be, planting or, growing trees or working in agriculture or whatever. And yeah, totally. And honestly, I'd love to be planting more. I'd love to be doing that thing more. But you know what? You don't always have to be doing that. You could just take your work out into nature. I mean, look how much back in the day when when we had a more integrated life with nature, people were doing everything outside, everything from painting to knitting to sewing to cooking, everything could be done outside. It's just that we're a bit confused as to how we're supposed to actually relate to nature, which is the funniest thing. Imagine watching a sheep be confused about how it relates to nature, or a bird. Imagine birds being confused as to how they relate to nature. It would just be the funniest thing, and yet here we are, humans are doing it. So rain, hail or shine, maybe in the hail, I don't know, but definitely the wind, I'll still be out here. You can see my hair blowing, obviously, if you're watching the video, but the trees in the background, we're all going nuts here. This is one of my favorite little cliff edge spots. It's relatively quiet. Okay, here we go. This might be the view. Oh, can the wind blow your phone off a cliff? Oh, probably. All right, let's get into this before I'm blown off the cliff. So in this episode, I'm going to be continuing the 8 Limbs of Yoga series that we've been on for a while. We've gone through the first and second limb of yoga, the yama, niyama. There are 10 episodes just talking about those 2 limbs because there are 5 yama, there are 5 niyama. We've gone through the 3rd limb, asana, and the 4th limb, pranayama. And now we're going through the 5th limb, pratyahara. Let's do a quick recapture. The 8 limbs of yoga is Ashtanga yoga taught by Patanjali in the Yoga Sutras. Ashtanga literally means 8-limbed path. So Ashtanga is the 8-limbed path. It is the Ashtanga teaching. So the 8 limbs of yoga are the best way for the modern human being who is living in the modern world to achieve the goal of yoga, which of course is yoga chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga is the stilling of the fluctuations of the mind. So the 8 limbs give you a detailed run through as to how you can practice in order to achieve that goal, and even not necessarily 1,000,000% achieve that goal, but just benefit from working towards it, because the more we work towards the goal of stilling the mind, the more benefit you receive. As in, the quieter the mind appears, the more control, the more restraint you have over the human mind. And for me this week, that has very much looked like controlling my digital time. So time on social media. So many of us are just so engaged with social media, we just scroll, we don't even think about it. When you practice with a little bit more intention around your mind, which yoga encourages you to do, you get a bit more of a detailed overview as to why you might be doing that, and you have a little bit more control as to whether or not you stop or start, which is incredibly beneficial. Okay, so let's talk about the 5th limb, Pratyahara. Pratyahara is typically translated to mean withdrawal of the senses, or sense withdrawal. And this is an okay interpretation, it's accurate. My only issue with it, from my point of view, is that for a while I didn't understand the importance of it, and I just ignored it because it didn't really make a lot of sense with me. Like withdraw from the senses. What do you want me to do? Take my nose off? Just take my tongue out? Just stitch up my eyes? You just sense, our 5 senses, the way our touch, our sense of smell, our taste, our sight, our hearing. What am I going to do? Just like unplug all of those senses, withdrawal of the senses. Withdrawal is what kind of like a step back. It's not an abandonment, it's just a withdraw slightly. It's just take a step back slightly. So it's just taking a step back from your senses. And when you hear that, it sounds so confusing and so like, what? what do you mean? It's like, how? So for a while, I didn't really pay much attention to this limb. And it wasn't until I connected with it a little bit more and the understanding of it that I was able to start to practice it. So let's break down the actual word. So Pratyahara is made up of two words. Prati, which means to withdraw, to step away from. And hara means from food or anything coming in from the outside. So you're stopping or withdrawing away from, limiting, turning away from anything coming in from the outside. So the word food isn't used in the literal term, although yes, food as well, the stuff that you eat, yes, but anything coming in from the outside. Okay, so food for the mouth. We know what food for the mouth is. Drink, food. We get it. For the eyes, it's what you look at, what you read, what you watch, what you witness. Everything to do with the eyes is food for the eyes. Everything you hear, audiobooks, podcasts, people talking, sounds in nature, everything, food noise, cooking noises, all kinds of noise, being in a shopping center, hearing the beeps, boops and things like that from technology and, in the hospital or in supermarkets, just hearing all that. It's all ear noise. I think a lot of us can relate to being overstimulated by ear noise. If you picture a room of 100 toddlers all screaming, that would probably do it. That would probably make you go, wow, this is way too much food for my ears. That's basically what it means. And then we've got nose, so smells, perfumes, essential oils, incense. You may have had the experience in your life where maybe someone's wearing way too much deodorant or perfume, or maybe there's like really strong incense or even essential oils burning or mystifying in the room, and it can sometimes give you a headache. I don't know if you've had that before. I certainly have. That is too much for the nose, way too much stimulation. And then finally, our physical body, our sense of touch. So obviously everything that you touch, physical pleasures, clothing that you wear, things that you do with your body, the way you move your body, everything to do with the body, anything you could think of. Anything in terms of movement, pleasure organs, anything you put on your body, around your body, it's all food for the body. Even moisturizers you put on your skin drinks those moisturizers. So it is quite literally food. Even plastics in your clothing, your skin absorbs some of that when you sweat, so plastic, the food, your skin is quite literally eating your clothing. So there's a lot to come into this. And obviously there's a lot, okay? We can also think of another sense here, and that is our intellect or the mind. What is food for the mind? Information, conversation, scrolling on social media, all the opinions, all the stuff, the stress, the to-do lists, all of the things, the reason we have so much stress and anxiety going on and overwhelm, overthinking, all of that is food for the mind, constant food. Now, why is this a teaching in yoga? Why is this something that can help us achieve the goal of yoga? Why must I step away from eating, from taking in things from the outside? Why must I have breaks from that or limit it? First, let's just imagine, again, I've already given you a few ideas here in terms of let's imagine 100 toddlers screaming. Let's imagine someone wearing crazy amounts of deodorant or maybe not wearing deodorant, maybe really strong perfume, or maybe a washing detergent that's super strong, or maybe their house, they're burning incense in every room, or whatever it is. A smell, think of a smell you don't like, or too much of a smell. You've had this experience where it's just too much. How about for the eyes? What about when there's flashing on a TV screen and quick color changes on your phone, and then there's also what everyone else is doing in the room and people are moving and there's just so much going on, and it's just like, I just need to close my eyes for a minute, or I just need to get some fresh air, I just need a break, I just need a breather from whatever this is, right? Let's think of when you're doing too much with your body, when you're taking in too much, a hug that's not wanted, touching that isn't wanted, or too much touching from too many different places, restrictive clothing that feel almost like a jail, or constant picking or fidgeting, just constant energy movement through the body and around the body. Let's think of too much food. When you've overeaten and you feel sick, or you've overeaten too much of one thing. If I eat just a handful of strawberries, I feel pretty good. If I eat 500 strawberries, I don't feel so good, right? There's always a limit with how much you get to take in. Let's imagine we're eating way too much or drinking way too much. Do you think logically, yes or no, will that lead to mental peace? No. When you've eaten too much, your stomach hurts. You feel like you just need to lie down. Maybe even in extreme cases, maybe there's even need to go to the bathroom. That's not mental peace. Let's say we are looking at a TV screen, a laptop screen, our phone, and then there's people in the room moving, and there's just so much visual stimulation, and it's changing constantly. Logically, yes or no, does that lead to mental peace? No. Do the same thing with your hearing. If 6 different people are talking to you at once and all asking for different things, if you've got music in the background, an audiobook, a podcast, and then what everyone else is watching on their devices, and you can just hear so much stuff, does that lead to mental peace? No. How about really strong, overpowering smells, way too much? So much so it might even give you a headache. Mental peace? No. And again, constant movement, constant doing, constant fidgeting, constant touch, constant attention on the physical body. It's torture a lot of the time to have constant noise, constant touch, constant opinions, constant doing. It is overwhelming. And then, of course, not only your 5 senses have to handle all that and have that input constantly going in, your mind processes all of it. Because when you think about it, if you smell something, it's not just the smell itself. Your mind has this moment of, what's that? Is that smoke? Is that rose? Oh, what scent is that? I remember that scent. I remember that. One of my friends used to wear that. Oh, I'm having this whole memory flashback. It's a whole thing with the mind. And that's just one smell. Imagine 5 senses and constant noise going into the senses. A lot of this stuff we can't control. For example, if we're going shopping and a child starts screaming, you can't control that. There's just stimulation that's part of life. But a lot of it we add to ourselves. Okay, so I think what you can gather from this is that constant food for the senses and the mind does not lead to mental peace in any shape or form. So if our goal here is to create a little bit more mental peace, what can we do? We practice Pratyahara, which is actively withdrawing from the senses. How do we do that? It's actually not as hard as you might think. In terms of the physical body, stillness, no picking, no moving. This is where, having time to yourself, time in your own energy, time to be still, even if it's just lying down reading a book, very little stimulation, very soft, loose clothing, very comfortable clothing, and not doing much. These kind of rest days, how rejuvenating is that? It is so blissful for the body. That's Pratyahara. Let's look at our eyes. How about we don't watch any TV? How about we don't go on our phone? This is a digital detox, right? Digital detox is a form of Pratyahara. It's just got a cool modern word on it, but it's Pratyahara. Withdrawing from the phone is getting that information, putting it away from you. No screens, even no books, no words, no nothing, because anything you read is also something the mind processes. So it's actually just going, I find being out in nature and watching nature to be a great way to detox for the eyes, because all of our eyes, we've got a lot of eye strain going on and visual problems because of the screens. looking out to natural things, getting the sunlight in the eyes. It's cleansing. It is so healing. So that is Pratyahara with the eyes. With your ears, no podcasts for a day. Again, no social media, no music, no audiobooks. Think of a silent meditation retreat. When you go there, it's silent for a reason. It's to give your senses and your mind a break. Nothing to look at, nothing to smell, nothing to hear, nothing to say, nothing to listen to. The only thing you're really given is a mental task of sitting, being still, and food. That's it. And it is so confronting for so many people because you're so used to being overfed. If you're being overfed 24/7 and then suddenly there's no noise, there's nothing to listen to or watch, there's no opinions, there's no trending dances on TikTok, there's just nothing. And suddenly you're left with the present moment for exactly as it is without any artificial adding on to it. It's quite overwhelming. It's a lot. Why is it overwhelming? Because suddenly all those unprocessed things start to be processed. Look at our digestion. Your stomach cannot digest food properly if you continuously eat. You actually need a period of fasting. This is why breakfast is called break fast. Overnight, you're meant to fast. Ideally, you stop eating 2 or 3 hours at least before you go to bed, so that the digestion process has already really started happening. If you just constantly eat, your body never has the chance to fully digest anything that's happened in the stomach. It never has the opportunity to be empty. And digestion is your brain's first priority. What comes after the digestion? Cellular regeneration, physical healing, all of the other stuff that also needs attention but isn't first priority. First priority is digestion. So if you eat 24/7, you will never give your body the opportunity to kill off cancer cells, to heal stuff going on in the body, for the immune system to take care of itself, for the lymph system to take care of itself. You never give it that opportunity. Sorry, I just saw an eagle flying overhead. It was amazing. I had to stop and look, and honestly, when do you see an eagle fly over your office, in your office? Never. Back to what I was saying. So again, you never give yourself the opportunity to fully digest food or to fully take care of yourself. If you're constantly taking in food, there is no opportunity for digestion of that food, for processing of that food, for benefit. There is no break. And rest is healing. We must have rest. There is absolutely no reason to not be resting, to not be relaxing, because relaxation and rest is healing. It's about our longevity. So this teaching of Pratyahara is so wise from so many angles. Not only will it help you with your physical health, but it'll help you emotionally because you'll be processing things. It'll help you mentally because your mind won't be bombarded with constant noise and opinions and all this stuff. It'll actually have a break and it'll learn to just sit with itself and not be so hyped up. If you imagine giving a child constant sugar and you wonder why they're crazy, why they're running around, they won't sit still, they're so emotional and all over the place, and you wonder why when you give your mind that constant dopamine, that constant noise and stimulation, you wonder why it runs around like a toddler and you can't keep it still. That's why, too much noise. So we've got to learn to tone it down, reduce the noise. So Pratyahara in the spiritual sense creates space for us to feel genuinely connected to life, connected to ourselves, connected with the planet. We must withdraw from all those pleasures, from all that eating, including scrolling, including sugar, including caffeine. This is where we may want to withdraw from alcohol and things that are stimulants, smoking, all of those things. We've got to step away from those quick feel-good things because it creates distance between us and what's right in front of you. The spirit of this world, the earth, your own pranic energy, your own aliveness is not going to scream at you to pay attention to it. You've got to sit down Withdraw from the noise, withdraw from the 3D, the constant input, put things down, get away from things, give yourself a break, and just sit. And you'll find there's so much peace there. This is why we practice Pratyahara. It is a gift, it is a challenge, and it is something you will find so beneficial if you have not already given it a go. You probably have given it a go in some way. If you've ever said, I just need some space, I just need to get some air, I just need some time to myself, that's you hitting your wit's end with actually needing your own space to digest and to heal. So that is Pratyahara. That is Pratyahara, and it is beautiful, and it is a gift to be able to practice, and I encourage you to do it, to practice. You know, part of my reason for coming out into nature and being out here and recording is because there's no flashing lights. This mic is just a mic, doesn't have any flashing or doesn't talk to me, doesn't beep, doesn't do anything. I've got my phone, yes, that's the extent of it. I don't have laptops, fluorescent lights, fake lighting, a roof over my head. I have the ground under my feet, my bare skin touching the earth, the birds in the background, eagles flying overhead. Nature is with me and I am with nature, and that is much more natural than sitting in an office with 4 walls with a neon sign, Madison Mindset, right? These kind of things create more food, more noise, more distraction. We don't need any of that. We actually need simplicity. So that's why I try and come outside to record as much as I can. When given the opportunity is what I'll do. And most of the time there's an opportunity. It just requires a little bit more effort to get outside, grab your beanie, do what you need to do to make sure you be warm. And then nature gets to create with me. And that could not feel any more supportive to myself and to nature and to you. Thank you so much for being here, Magical Human. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and if you did, please share it with someone who you believe would love it. Share it on your Instagram stories and tag me at Madison_mindset. And thank you. Thank you so much. If you want to be doing yoga from home and developing your daily practice, go and join me on Yoga with Madison, where I share regular classes for you to connect with, to develop your practice and your understanding of yoga, and to slow down. You can find the link below. Thank you for being here. I'll see you next time.